Oh, this is Mr. Hornsby 3. This is the Mr. Hornsby 3 show, and today I am doing a video talking about modern day wrestling figures and how exciting it is to be a collector right now, and how awesome it also is to see how much more wrestling figures have improved since the early days and since I was a kid. But before I start, I want to start this video on some sad news with the passing of Scott Hall. I believe it was like Monday morning he passed, or it might have been late night Monday, but Scott Hall no longer amongst the world of living for us, so sad to see. Rest in peace, Scott Hall. My thoughts and prayers go out to his family and his friends, and all those who knew Scott Hall well. Funny thing is, my brother met Scott Hall once before too, so very sad. So now let's get into modern day wrestling figures, which, as you can see, I got a bunch of them out here. Some of them are from my little collection I got, which I only got a limited amount of figures for my collection. And most of these are my son's collection figures. I mean, biggest part of them are his. So my thoughts on being a wrestling figure fan right now is, that it's pretty awesome because you got all these great AEW figures, you got all these great WWE figures, you got, Ultimate Editions, you got Unrivaled, Unmatched, Elites, crappy basics. MJF gets knocked over by the wind and drops his mic. That's his golden gift, is mic skills, even though he's a good wrestler as well. And he just... this friggin' mic sucks in his hands. It seems like it don't never want to stay in his hands. I'm gonna have to have Bam Bam hold up MJF like he frick. But yeah, you got the Elites, the Unrivaled, the crappy basics, the frickin' Unmatched, Ultimate Edition, Supremes are coming out soon. And, wrestling figure fans have a lot to be excited about because we haven't had any other major wrestling company, have wrestling figures since what? Last time was 2012 with the TNA figures, which that line didn't last long. I think the AEW figures will last a lot longer because of the fact that the technology they're using for the AEW figures are a lot better than what Jakks was using for the TNA figures. So it's pretty exciting. And, AEW seems like right now they're competing with WWE on all levels in the freaking TV industry, with them being on TBS and TNT. In the video game industry, whenever their game comes out, which seems like forever since their game's been planned to come out. And then the action figure game, and that's a big deal. I mean, they also got merchandise and that. That's something WCW, even when they started, they really didn't have that big of a merchandise thing. Now, yeah, WCW had some figures, but a lot of the WCW figures were crappy. In fact, I even said a while back in one of my last Toy Talk videos was, the WCW figures didn't get good until Toy Biz got the rights to them, which was right around the time WCW was going downhill and was getting ready to go out of business. Had WCW stuck around longer, maybe the WCW figures would have been... Hey, you never know. WCW figures might end up being made by Jakks, but, WWF got them, Jakks was making them, and then WWF, and then Mattel got the rights to the WWE figures, and, Honestly, though, I gotta say, I mean, I'm a fan of the WWE figures and the freaking AEW figures, despite the fact that I don't watch Raw most of the time, and I watch, only maybe a half hour of SmackDown weekly, because I watch NXT religiously, until they had Dolph Ziggler beat freaking Braun Steiner for the freaking NXT Championship. But I mean, even when I don't watch the shows, I still buy the figures because the figures are awesome. I mean, you got the basics, you got the elites, you got the unmatched, you got the unrivaled, ultimate editions. Basics used to be good when Mattel first made WWE figures, but now basics just suck. And the articulation sucks. Now, that's the exception for this Hulk Hogan figure, because this was made, I don't know if it was a re-release of an old Hulk Hogan basic figure or what, but and also AEW has color in their belts. I mean, you look at the belts the belts got colored just like the WWE figure belts do. And, another thing I'm excited about is that, now, even though they've botched some of the WCW belts like this one, but those tag belts up there at the front with Hall and Nash wearing, those are good. Those are the best WCW belts that Mattel's made. Just like, and that freaking Vader belt right there, even that belt's botched. But anyway, yeah, they got collar in the belts. They got the articulation down to a pack. Now, I think AEW Jazzwares kind of used a little bit of the Ultimate Edition, articulation for the top. But unlike with WWE figures, AEW figures, you can customize just by popping. You can pop the whole, if I wanted to. If I went and found another MJF that I thought this body would be better on, just pop it off and put it on that MJF instead of keeping him in those. But another thing too with the current WWE figures, which they're all falling all over the place because of the freaking wind. But alright, anyway. Darby and Sting fell, father and son's knocked out. And with the Jax figures, WWE Jax figures had scaling issues, and so did the TNA figures. With the AEW figures and the Mattel figures, they don't have scaling issues. Now there has been certain times where Mattel and Jazzwares has had scaling issues, like with the Luchasaurus, which is somewhere in this pack here, and the Jon Moxley, which is one of the guys that fell over. This Moxley's way taller, and the Dustin figures. But other than that, a lot of the figures are true to their scale. I mean, you look at Stone Cold Steve Austin next to Rob Van Dam. Look at MJF next to freaking, and the AEW figures fit well with the WWE figure. So, and I like the fact that both companies said, "Look, we got to have collared belts. We can't be having these belts that are freaking, just the gold shiny and then everything else is colored." But, I do have some, like I said, I do have some issues with the AEW figures, and I do have some issues with the WWE figures. Like, Mattel not making good WCW belts, except for the tag belts. And it looks like that Ricky Steamboat, the figure that's coming with the Ricky Steamboat, the belt that's coming with the Ricky Steamboat, which is television title, that looks like that's good. But WWE has an issue. Mattel has an issue with making a more modernized versions of the belts, like this TV title on RVD. Yes, RVD had it, but this came with Bam Bam Bigelow, and Bam Bam Bigelow had the Winged Eagle version of the frickin' television title in ECW, and the belt Bam Bam has that came with Terry Funk, but Terry Funk never carried this version of the ECW championship. Shane Douglas, and I think Bam Bam might have carried that version. Mike Awesome, and Taz, and freaking all those guys, and Rhino, those guys held that version of the belt. Bam Bam has to hold up Pac because the Pac figure. That's the issue with the AEW figures. The AEW figures, the scaling, the freaking how loosey-goosey some of the figures are, and it's hard to stand them, like with Pac right now having to be held up by Bam Bam Bigelow. That's a big issue, but when people complain about the rubber jackets on the figures, like on the Sting, which I found at a Target out here, but at least with the rubber jackets, you could take them off like that. You don't gotta have the issue where you take off this part of the jacket, but this is still there, so... Same with the Darby figure, his son. You could take this off, and you won't have arm sleeves sticking because there's his bare arms. I'm not going to take them off because some of these jackets are hard to put on, and Darby wants to stay next to his dad's thing, so... Anyway, that's one issue, but my issues is the standing problem. Like Darby has issues standing. MJF sometimes has issues standing. The Pac, Jungle Boy, you gotta freaking do a lot of work to get some of these figures to stand in. That's not an issue with WWE Mattel figures. Yeah, they do have that issue sometimes, but they're not as bad as with the freaking Mattel with the Jazzware, so hopefully they'll fix that this year. I mean, you know, the AEW figures are only 2-year figures. They've only been out for 2 years. Fudge. Of course, this freaking wind blows everything over. Anyway, like Hulk, who just knocked over Penta. By the way, I love this Penta. This is like the coolest figure. I almost want to keep it myself, but I gave it to my son. Anyway, so all the figures fell over because of the wind. Thank you, wind. Thank you, Mother Nature, for screwing up another video. Anyway, you know, but like I said, the detail, the articulation, all that is good on the Mattel and the AEW figures. And the AEW figures, just like Mattel, have colored belts. They don't have the freaking shiny belt with no pink apps added to them. And I mean, you look at the Jakks belts compared to the freaking Mattel and frickin' Jazzware belts. And boy, how much of an improvement it was. But yeah, you know, if they fix the scaling issues with AEW figures and the standing issues, and then they fix some of the issues with not being able to make the right versions of WCW belts, like for example, when they make a WCW figure, they give them this version of the World Heavyweight title. They don't give them the freaking big gold version. Like, these ain't Mattel belts, but these are freaking Toy Biz. But they don't give you the freaking style that they don't do the freaking version. And since they're probably never gonna make the WCW version of the big gold, that's why we went and got a bunch of the freaking Toy Biz belts. That way, that can fill that gap. I know the Jakks belts were filling that gap for a while, but I made that decision toward the end of last year. I'm like, it's got to be the Toy Biz belts. Me and my wife figured out a way to make them look as accurate as we could, and I like them a lot better than anymore. I look at the Toy Biz belt compared to the Jakks belts, especially the ones me and my wife have fixed up, and I'm like, wow, we did a great job. Now, yes, the rubies are missing from the Toy Biz belt, but oh well. Anyway, but if WWE, Mattel figures, and AEW figures can make changes on certain things, I think this is going to be a great wrestling figure war for years to come in wrestling figure history. So, like I said, you know, a lot of love was put into those WCW tag belts apparently, and the ones that's coming with the Undertaker, and the one that's coming with the Undertaker. But as far as all the other WCW belts, I don't think a lot of love was put into them. Especially this freaking US. I mean, just look at this thing. The two-plated U.S. title that came out in the early 90s was a smaller belt. The freaking belt Vader has. This belt was bigger than that belt. This belt was supposed to be bigger than this belt, and it's freaking smaller. Which is crazy, because it's, you know, just crazy, so. But that are my thoughts on the modern day wrestling figures, the Toy Talk, and honestly, because I really like these AEW figures, and you know, and WWE just announced a new Elite Wave called the Greatest Hits, so we're gonna be seeing that come out soon. Now look, I ain't got no problem with this belt. I like it. WWE version title of the Big Gold was a good version, but if you're gonna make it a WCW belt with a WCW figure, you gotta make it more like what the Toy Biz figure belts are. Not, you know, the Mattel big gold belt that's a WWE version with the logo. So, yeah. At least it has the rubies, I'll give it that. Unlike Toy Biz, but anyway. Yeah, that's my thoughts on the wrestling figure, modern day wrestling figures. I really love what Mattel and Jazzwares are doing. And I look forward to seeing these lines 10, 15 years down the road as well. Not being sold as antiques either. Being sold still currently. Updating current AEW wrestlers. Updating current, you know, WWE wrestlers at the time. Not as antiques in the freaking flea market where they jack up the price to like close to $1,000 for a wrestling figure. But so next week I'll be doing a video that will not be for kids. This one's going to be for kids. And the last couple I've done have been kind of kid-friendly videos. But this one, I'm going to be talking about my thoughts on porn spoofs. I'm going to give my thoughts on that. Then after that, I'm going to try to get at least one WrestleMania review in on YouTube. I don't know which one I'll review. I could do 6. I could do freaking 5, 6. I could do 17. I could do 15. I don't want to do 15 because somebody else just did 15, so I don't want to do 15. I could probably do WrestleMania 2000, but I think I already did that one. But yeah, I'll do some of those. But next week, yeah, my thoughts on porno spoofs. And then from there, I'm going to try to get a WrestleMania, at least 2 WrestleMania reviews in before WrestleMania 38, I believe. And then I'm going to be jumping into DC month. I'll be talking about a lot of DC characters, how I got introduced to them. Some of the animated shows they came out with. Some of the movies that some of these characters have had. And then after that will be Marvel month. I'll be talking about Marvel characters. So Marvel and DC month coming up. I decided to change things since I've been off YouTube a couple years ago. I decided to change to, just doing it a Marvel DC month. Yes, I will probably be talking about my favorite DC characters and my favorite Marvel characters more than I will the other characters. And I'll probably sound like I know a lot more about those characters than I do all the other characters I talk about on this. So, yeah. But that's what I got planned for the next few weeks. Finally going to get my playthrough of frickin' In Your House on the Facebook fan page this coming week. So, that's pretty much it. I'll catch you guys later and peace out. Stop that, James. Peace out. See you for the porno spoof video.